In the political landscape of the Pacific region, a new and alarming stage has begun. After the recent elections, which will go down in Japan's history, Sanae Takaichi became the country's first female prime minister. Her victory marked the beginning of a new era, but also the start of a serious geopolitical storm. Since taking office, Takaichi has done what no Japanese leader has dared to do for decades: openly challenge Washington and Donald Trump personally, whose tariff pressure policy has already turned the Pacific into an arena of economic war. According to sources in Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Takaichi immediately made it clear that the era of unilateral concessions is over. At a closed meeting, excerpts of which leaked to the press, the Prime Minister stated that Japan will be an ally, but not a vassal. These words instantly spread around the world, and according to the Financial Herald, the White House perceived them as a veiled ultimatum. Washington expected the new head of the Japanese government to continue a loyal course, but Takaichi chose a completely different strategy: a carrot-and-stick approach, combining pragmatism with toughness. Insiders close to the Trump administration claim that Takaichi, in a personal conversation with the American ambassador, laid out the conditions. If the United States treats Japan with respect and equality, the alliance will remain strong. But if Trump tries to use tariffs as a tool of pressure, Japan will strike at the very heart of the American economy. And that strike, as analysts at Nikkei Asia note, could be truly destructive. Japan is one of the largest holders of U.S. government debt. Its bond portfolios are valued in the hundreds of billions of dollars. Even a partial reduction in Japanese investments in treasuries could trigger panic on financial markets and sharply increase yields on U.S. securities, which would raise borrowing costs within the United States. According to Bloomberg Japan, the Ministry of Finance in Tokyo has already set up a special working group to analyze scenarios for gradually reducing dependence on the dollar and reorienting international settlements to the yen. This is not just an economic measure, but a political signal. For the first time in its post-war history, Japan is demonstrating its readiness to pursue an independent financial policy without looking to Washington. Analysts at the East Policy Review note that this decision was a response to Trump's tariff aggression, which raised duties on Japanese cars, electronics, and industrial components to 35%. For a country whose economy is based on exports, such actions are seen as a direct threat to national security. However, Sanae Takaichi did not choose confrontation for the sake of confrontation. On the contrary, she is trying to show that Japan is ready for partnership if the United States respects the balance of interests. According to Japanese officials, the new cabinet is already preparing a package of proposals for mutual investment to offer an alternative to a tariff war. At the same time, the Japanese government is strengthening economic ties with China, India, and Southeast Asian countries, creating new trade corridors where settlements will be conducted not in dollars, but in national currencies. This is the first step toward de-dollarization, which Tokyo is taking publicly and deliberately. According to Reuters' Tokyo Bureau, the idea of promoting the yen as a regional currency was first voiced at a meeting of the Economic Security Council under the Prime Minister. In a document leaked to the press, it says that the world is entering an era of currency pluralism. The dollar cannot remain the only instrument of trust. For Washington, such wording sounds like a challenge, but for Tokyo, it represents long-awaited independence. According to experts at HSBC Asia, if even part of Asia switches to settlements in yen, this could reduce global demand for the dollar by 5 to 7% over the next 5 years, a blow that would be especially painful for the U.S. budget amid a record deficit. The White House is reacting nervously to what is happening. Trump's advisors are preparing a series of countermeasures, including a possible revision of the agreement on the deployment of American military bases on Japanese territory. However, Pentagon analysts warn that any pressure on Japan could lead to the collapse of the Asian security architecture built by the United States after the Second World War. Today, Japan is not just an ally, but a key outpost of American influence in the region. Losing Tokyo's loyalty could open the door to China, which has long sought to push Washington out of the Pacific. Meanwhile, nationalist sentiment is gaining strength in Japanese society. Takaichi's victory has inspired a whole generation of young politicians who advocate a Japanese path. the return of technological and financial independence to the country. State television channels increasingly speak of the need for new economic patriotism, and voices are being heard in Parliament about revising dependence on American technologies and weapons. According to Asahi Shimbun, in the coming months, Parliament will consider a bill to stimulate domestic production of microchips, electronics, and batteries, which directly contradicts the interests of American corporations, such as Intel and Tesla, operating in the Japanese market. Trump, according to sources close to him, took Takaichi's policy as a personal insult. According to Politico Asia, during a closed meeting, he allegedly stated that if Japan wants to play independence, it should pay for it. These words triggered a new wave of tension. In Tokyo, they were perceived as a threat and interference in internal affairs. Japan's defense minister publicly declared that the country does not need mentoring and is ready to defend its interests by all means. Against this backdrop, Japan is strengthening strategic cooperation with South Korea and Australia, creating an informal economic triangle capable of reducing the region's dependence on the United States. This alliance has already been dubbed the New Asian Renaissance in the Western press. According to the Global Economic Forum, Tokyo is negotiating with Seoul on the creation of a joint technological innovation fund with a capitalization that could exceed $200 billion. The risks for the American economy are becoming increasingly evident. Experts at Moody's Analytics warn that if Japan really begins to reduce its holdings of U.S. bonds, it could trigger a domino effect, with South Korea, Taiwan, and even some European investors concerned about Trump's policies following suit. Markets are already jittery. The dollar-yen exchange rate has shown its highest volatility since 2015 in recent weeks. But as Financial Review Asia notes, the real battle between Trump and Takaichi is not economic, but ideological. It is a clash of two worldviews: American protectionism versus Japanese pragmatic nationalism. Takaichi, raised in a family of samurai traditions, makes no secret of her admiration for the idea of a strong state capable of protecting its citizens from external pressure. She is quoted in all Japanese media saying that strength is not a threat, strength is dignity. These words have already become a kind of political slogan of the new Japan. In analytical circles, the current situation is increasingly compared to the crisis of the 1980s, when Washington forced Tokyo to sign the so-called Plaza Accord, which led to years of recession in Japan. But today, times are different. Japan is not what it was 40 years ago. It is a country with a powerful technological base, the world's largest capital reserves, and a leader willing to take risks. In conclusion, the world is witnessing the birth of a new Japan, independent, proud, and ready to challenge the old rules of the game. And if Donald Trump does not change course, the United States may face the largest crisis in U.S.-Japanese relations since the Second World War. As The Economist Asia edition writes, Takaichi is destroying the myth that Japan will always be America's quiet partner. She is doing what none of her predecessors ever did, forcing Washington to respect Tokyo.